Anybody that knows me knows that I like bluegrass music. I also like Celtic music. And if I can find a branch of bluegrass Celtic or Celtic bluegrass, hell yeah, I'm all over it. All right. Welcome to Open Pagan Church this morning. And to those of you watching or listening to the live feed, um, welcome Scotland. Yeah. Debbie and them are driving down the road, kind of out on a day out. Got Open Pagan Church up and playing. Um, we've got some new people that have joined in over at House of Pagans. Hopefully they'll make it this morning. And those of you that are going to be watching the pre-recorded programs over on YouTube, where the hell are we all at? YouTube, Stumble, Pinterest, Tumblr. I just go click crazy. Once I upload it to YouTube, I just start sharing it on all of the different channels. That way if people want to watch, they can. Right. Well, let's get on into it. Click like, click subscribe, give us your comments. That's what keeps us going. Right. Topic. In the chat area, those of you that may have gone to Open Pagan Church link and pre-watched the video, which I hope you did, that pinged the antenna of the topic for this morning. Changing one's mind. Kind of an open-ended topic. Changing one's mind. Well, you know, having been in my earlier years in this lifetime, having been everything from a deacon in a church to a choir boy to a pagan elder, being recognized as one of the pagan elders at a lot of the pagan events, I find it interesting at how quick through time your mind changes about certain topics. Let's think about those of you that have just started coming into the pagan ideology, the pagan philosophy. How many times since you were young has your mind changed? Ideas changed, thoughts changed, opinions about certain things and certain people, events. As we become more educated or learned, and you can be educated without actually reading a book, right? A lot of people think education simply comes from a book, reading, reading a piece of paper, reading pages out of a book is the only way to become educated. Well, that could not be further from the truth. Education can come from life experiences, from someone teaching you. Education can come from listening to the people that have been there and done that. Even new people coming into different philosophies and ideas, you can learn. You can become better educated, more knowledgeable, more accepted, and more acceptive of other philosophies and ideologies. I know back in the mid to late 90s, when I was doing major search for who and what I was and where I was going and what I was going to be, I found myself in a whirlwind turmoil. when you're studying and you're learning and you're becoming more learned, it can cause you to change your mind out of necessity. Now, like I say, uh, back in the mid to late 90s, when I was searching for myself, excuse me, I found my mind changing a lot. Like when I was in my teens and 20s, I always thought the metaphysical realm was very interesting. I was raised accepting the metaphysical realm, learning how to use energy, feel people, put shields, work with energy to help people. But nothing ever actually made sense back then. I didn't understand where it all came from. One of the things I found in my 30s and 40s is that there was a period of time that I was so passionate about being pagan that I found myself ramming it down the throat of friends and acquaintances, and I would basically get in your face and say, "Yeah, I'm pagan. What of it?" Well, I soon found that wasn't actually a good way to handle things. I soon found that being able to explain and describe what the pagan philosophy is at its core. And I learned that I changed my mind about getting in people's faces about who and what I am. I found that that doesn't help me or anyone else. So the changing of one's mind can be very hard to do. And I'm going to, in this segment of Open Pagan Church, I'm going to talk a little bit about the mindset of society. I want to talk a bit about the mindset of social networking. We, here in 2018, we are a global society. Over the last 10 to 15 years, the global society has grown at such a rate and such a high speed that I don't think too many people anticipated. I really don't think any of us that climbed on the digital bandwagon, if you will, in the 90s and the 2000s, that would figure that it would have had this big of impact on society. Think about this. In 94, 95, when I first really got into computers, I had a news imprint, if you will, a society imprint in my mind at that time of what other cultures were like. Example, the British culture, the Japanese culture, the Russian culture, the Middle Eastern culture. I hate to call them the Indian culture because to me, Indian is Native American Indian, the people that were here in the Americas quite some time before we were. So to me, when I say Indian, I'm saying Native American Indian. I tend to not call Middle Eastern and folk from India Indians. Just my own thing. Okay, moss next here or there. But as I become more active in social networking, and of course back then it was mostly bulletin boards, IRC chatting, different forms of DOS-based interactivity of people all over the world. There wasn't any of this face-to-face live streaming that we have today. If you saw a picture of someone, it was a picture that they wanted you to see, and well, like Facebook, you never know if that's them or if it's not. So what happens to society? What happens to society as it has become a global entity? What's happened to society as it has become a global nature of communication? Well, on the good side, okay, on the good side, people that are open minded enough to reach out and learn and look at alternative philosophies and ideologies and people that don't always believe as they do, but they reach out and they listen to people. They nowadays they watch the live streaming videos of how they live. And it can make you very humble of those of us here in the Americas who have a nice home, an automobile to drive, decent jobs. Those of us who have an air conditioned office, right? Coffee, vape. But one can quickly become educated, I hope, in that you and your little cubicle is not the only existence on the planet. Your thoughts, your ideas, your belief, your mindset is not the only mindset on the planet. Every human being that walks this planet has a slightly different mindset. They have a different thought process, a different way of thinking. Human beings are notorious about going, I know it all. I am everything. I am the all. I am the only one that matters. And I, me, puke. Well, in changing one's mind, we can step outside of our cubicle, we can step outside of our comfort zone, and get out there and see that I'm not the only one. And in the early 2000s, I was absolutely ecstatic. I was amazed, I was ecstatic, I was very happy to learn that I was not the only one that thought or felt there was more than one God and our goddess. I was absolutely astounded to know that I wasn't the only one that had what I later learned as shamanic ideas. I didn't even know at that time my ideas were shamanic until I learned more. So it changed my mind from the only way I'm going to find the answers is through Christianity. I wasn't finding anything but confusion through Christianity. Nothing wrong with it. If that's your bag, fine. It wasn't mine. And it's quickly becoming apparent that it's also not the bag of millions of people globally. Millions of people globally are changing their minds and beginning to understand that it's not just about me. That I'm not the only one. And this is absolutely amazing. It is absolutely amazing to me the sheer number of people that are changing their minds the world over. Speaking of changing of one's mind, But sorry, I had to check my phone. A page came through. And while I'm doing these videos, I do answer um, text and IMs and PMs and what have you. Some people are not always comfortable asking questions in open forum. But when you're talking about a mindset that you may have been raised with, you may have been programmed with, that is so hardcore from your earlier years, from your years of living with a group or section of people where the only thing you hear all day, every day is, well, this person is good, this person is bad, this way of life is bad, these people are bad, these people are good. So that begins to build a mindset and a way of thinking in your brain where, okay, my parents said it, so it has to be real. If my parents say it, it's real. If the society in which I grew up in says it, it has to be right. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not always true. It may be right for them, it may be right for their way of thinking, but overall, through a little education, you can change your mind about your way of thinking about certain societies and ideas and belief systems. Um, I could come up with 1,000 different terms that would come into play with different terminologies and mindsets of the way that certain people might think about certain things, right? Christianity, paganism, atheism, agnosticism, all right? Homosexuality, bisexuality, heterosexuality, transsexual, asexuality, on and on and on and on and on. Aliens. And no, I'm not talking about the aliens that come across the border. I'm talking about the belief in aliens from outer space. Whether you do or whether you don't, that's your thing. I do not care. There's a great big thing right now in the Americas about people that illegally come across the border. There's a great big thing globally about people from other geographic locations coming across borders of other countries. The Americas are not the only ones having this thing. This is a global occurrence. The big reason for the big upswing is because of the global internet. Now, there are countries like Russia, Japan, some Middle Eastern countries, some Korean countries, North Korea. You don't have freedom on the internet. Your internet is restricted. It's watched, it's scrutinized, what you post, what you say, blah, blah, blah. Very closed-ended countries are disallowing certain media, certain mind-provoking, thought-provoking ideas behind a closed-minded regime of different countries that do not want them people to be free thinkers. There is some of that mindset in America. We do have those who want restrictions on internet because free thinkers cause uprising of people. It's not normal. Blah. So, in the last 20 minutes, we've talked about mindset, Changing One's Mind, where our mindset comes from. How many times on social networks, and I'm not going to use any one in particular, but YouTube videos, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, stumble upon, blah, 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 on and on and on, Pinterest. You're going through and you're picking your different likes and ideas and topics and what have you. Being honest with yourself, how many times have you changed your mind about the way you think about something or someone? How many times have you maybe changed your mind about how you feel about something or someone? So when it comes down to it, when you're working with people who are very close-minded, very self-centered, if you will, in their thoughts, give them a little time. And if you find this person to be a friend, someone that you kind of like hanging with, they may be a nice person, but they have some very antiquated, outdated, and uneducated mindsets about some things that you sit back and you kind of scratch your head there and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't even sound right on any realm or plane. You can just let them be who they are, enjoy their friendship, enjoy their company, maybe sometimes get a bit of a giggle out of some of the rhetoric that they spout, some of the things that they talk about. I find that most of the time, if I meet someone or befriend someone, as it were, I find it best to listen. I find it best to listen to some of their thoughts and their ideas and how they think and the way they look at things. I might learn something. I might teach myself something. But that's where I'm going with the topic, changing one's mind. When you meet someone and you're talking or you're chatting, listen. Don't be so quick to jump up and go, you're wrong. Your thought processes are antiquated, uneducated, and unjust and unfounded, blah, 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 blah. Don't be so quick to become combative. And don't be so quick to judge someone else for doing the same damn thing you're doing. Now, where does that take us now? Well, it takes us into easier ways to accept people. And maybe if you decide that you can be bothered, help someone change their mind, become more educated. Help someone change their thought processes. And you do so by being who you are. Be a good person. Think about others. Consider others' feelings and consider cause and effect. This cause has this effect, and this effect brings forth this other cause, and what have you. And when you're communicating with others, you can actually learn more from them by listening. Sitting, listening to what they have to say. I don't recommend that while you're, quote, listening to them, that you're making your grocery list or you're building a wall or you're working on your automobile that might might have some problems. You're doing everything in the world but listening to what these people are saying, irregardless of the psycho rhetoric they may be coming up with, irregardless of whether you so completely disagree with what they're saying. Just listen. You'll get a better insight to what they're saying, you'll get a better insight to where they're coming from, and you'll get a better idea of what's going on in their head and the type of society in which they were raised, the type of belief system, ideas, thoughts. So, where you go from here is relatively simple. You don't have to change your way of thinking to be friends with others. You don't have to make others think you agree with them to be friends with people. Just listen. Hell, you may learn something. One of my biggest pet peeves in the world is white supremacists. People who think the color of their skin is more important than the heart of the individual in which they're judging. That is one of my biggest pet peeves that there is. But I've sit and listened to white supremacists and where they're coming from. 99% of everyone I've ever listened to, they're coming from a very uneducated, antiquated standpoint philosophy for which there is no basis in fact. There is no basis in fact from where they're coming from. And these types of individuals, I am probably not going to change their mind. So as I'm listening to them, one of them will invariably say, "Don't you think I'm right?" They need validation. They want someone to agree with their rhetoric. And I take a deep breath and I say, "No, I don't think you're right. I think you have the right to believe the way you do. I don't believe you have the right to infringe on others by destroying their life because you believe that white is the only pure race. That's not what I'm saying. I believe you have the right to believe the way you do. But what basis are you forming your opinion on?" Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you, this generally prompts a very spark of in-your-face confrontation because somehow this person has assumed this to be a threat. Because I have questioned their philosophy and ideas of a very antiquated, non-intelligent philosophy, they're suddenly ready to fight. I'm not going to fight with you. You ask. And I gave you my opinion, and it's just that. Just like open pagan church. I state things that I know for me to be real. I give ideas, thoughts, and processes of things that can help someone that's in a particular lost situation. Doesn't always mean I'm right. I'm only right when it corresponds with you, whoever you are. But moving on to the situation, there have been a handful of individuals that I have talked with in white supremacist organizations who've come out and said, I never thought about that. I never thought about it that way. I never thought about what people may look like when you peel the skin. Yeah, yeah, okay. If um, you get CSI involved and you get, science involved and all the rest of it, yeah, okay. You can tell the difference from the different nationalities of people without skin, but at a glance, you can't. Once everything is ripped away, you can't. That's just like at a glance, once the genitals are removed, you can't tell the difference between a man and a woman at a glance. You can't tell the difference between a white, a black, a Hispanic, a brown, a yellow, um, purple, pink, blue, whatever. But it comes down to a changing of one's mind. And that changing of one's mind can only be done through education. And the interesting part, when I was thinking about this topic, I thought about opening with the playing of the video that prompted this idea. And then I thought, nah, if they want to watch it, the link is there. They will either watch it before church or they'll watch it after they watch the video, or curiosity will get the best of them and they'll watch it. They'll pause this or exit it or whatever and go watch the video. I had all inclinations that this topic would probably last longer than the hour. But fascinatingly enough, there's nothing more to talk about in the changing of one's mind. Now, we can post, you can post, individuals and different ways that you've handled individuals through the years. We can post people that we've met that just refuse to have a mindset change. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that society forms a mindset early on when we're children. And life events that happen to us in our own environment causes mindsets. We may have, as a child, we may have been raised in a very supportive home, a very loving home, a very fundamentally, foundationally strong home. A lot of love, a lot of support, a lot of education. All of a sudden, time comes for you to leave home, and when you hit the real world, something so catastrophic happens that it changes your mindset. Something so catastrophic happens that it changes your mind about everything you ever thought you knew to be real. That's the kind of changing of one's mind I'm talking about. Or, in retrospect, you may have been raised in an environment where you had absolutely nothing. There was no support. There was no love. You were given up as a baby. You were adopted out. The people that adopted you may have abused you in one way or another. If they did, I'm sorry for that. You may have found yourself living on the street with absolutely nothing. You may have gotten into drugs so deep that you just couldn't get out. there was no way. All of a sudden, something or someone or a set of events happen to change your mindset from all encompassing negative pain, abuse, to help you start on a road up out of the slums, making a difference, get cleaned up, maybe find a job. If you're on drugs, come off of drugs. If you're completely dazed, crazed, and confused, maybe something or someone has made that change in your life that gives you some direction. That's the change of the mindset, the changing of one's mind that I'm hoping to make the point of. How important it is for our home environment, our friendship environment, our educational environment, work environment, home environment, to make a difference in our mindsets, to make those changes of our minds. Things that I believed and thought 5 years ago may not always hold true today. Things that I never would have thought of 10 years ago, well, today they're part of my thought processes and they're part of my mindset. Because as I become more learned and better educated, and I open my mind up a little more to listen to people, to listen to their thoughts and ideas and where they're coming from, I learned early on. Remember that young man that I was telling you about when he first got into paganism, how he was into just ramming it down your throat? And if you don't like the way I believe, well, piss on you. That person is no longer a part of who I am. Haven't been for a very long time. I made those changes. I made those changes in that mindset because it wasn't productive for me. And it wasn't productive for any of those around me. So maybe that's what it's all about. Are your mindsets, your beliefs, your thoughts, your ideas, your philosophies, they may not be wrong, but are they right? And it's okay to question yourself. I question myself periodically to make sure that I am on the road and on the path where I want to be. Do I still believe this? Do I still think that? Do I still have these actions and those thought processes and these thought processes? Am I still who I was 5, 10, 15 years ago? In some areas, yes, I'm still the same person. In many areas, no. I am a completely different person than I was. But at the core, I'm still Don. I'm still me. The who I am and the things I believe has changed over the years. They can with you too. By following a couple of different ideas, that has helped me stop, listen, and accept. I don't have to like you. I don't have to even understand you. But I'm going to listen. And if your rhetoric is so BSC, and if you want to know what BSC stands for, think about it. And your rhetoric and your ideas are so far out there that there's just absolutely no way I can get a grasp on it. I may say, well, it was nice talking to you. Have a nice life. Adios. I may be in a mood where I want to stir it just a little bit and go, why? What basis do you have to form your philosophy? And then see where it goes from there. And I may say, okay, I see your point, but I disagree, and here's why. And you never know where it's liable to go from there. Try that. Next time you are put in a situation where your mindset is so closed and so static and so centered that there's just no changing it. Pay attention to the people or events that come across to you. They may be there to help you learn a different way. Just maybe. Well, thank you for watching another Open Pagan Church. Hope you enjoy your day. Have a great week. And we hope to see you right here next Sunday with Open Pagan Church. Thanks again for watching.